you're the source, the wellspring of content. Use a VA to put that content everywhere according to the checklist you provide.
All right, buddy. I think we have Jason Pantana on. What's up, Jason?
Hey guys, how you doing today?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Living the dream, doing coaching calls, doing some webinars, hanging out with some amazing people like you guys. Happy to be here.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for being on, brother. Thanks for being on.
Of course.
Yeah, looking forward to our conversation. It's gonna be fun.
What's your official title at the Tom Ferry organization?
Same as any other business coach. I'm a business coach with Tom Ferry.
Nice, dude. Well, you're kind of like the face too, because we see you.
I lead marketing based trainings. There's not an official title for that. It's just I get to, and so that's all it is.
I like that, dude. I like it.
Yeah.
Right,
so you brought in as a social media guy here.
So when I joined Tom, I used to work for a large real estate brand. I worked for Coldwell Banker. I was their director of learning, and that's where I met Tom because I would coordinate all the training functions for our national events and stuff. So I would actually book Tom quite a bit, and then I would MC events and things like that. And there was this internal running joke that I was going to eventually leave and go work for Tom, and I was like, nah, it's never going to happen. I'm not going to do it.
Never say never.
And then I did. And then I was like, I really like this guy's business. I really like what they do. And so a couple of years later, the opportunity came about, and that was 6 years ago. And I've been working with Tom since then, and I love what we get to do. So it's been a blast.
Dude, when did you transition over to doing more of the videos, the webinars on stage? Because I felt like you came out of nowhere. When did that happen?
Yeah. So I'll give you the highlights in my mind in terms of what I think where the opportunities presented themselves. I was doing social media well before COVID. I was doing a lot of speaking events and traveling, and I was on the road quite a bit well before COVID. And then when COVID hit, Tom launched an internal program called Pivot. And it was basically just everybody look alive, get on your feet. We don't know what's going to happen. It was all new. And we had like 5 webinars a week internally for just our coaching members.
Nice.
And we started doing more webinars. And then Tom and I were on the phone, and Tom was like, we're just saying yes to everything. We're just going to, whatever they need, however we can help, we're just saying yes. So I just started lining up podcasts and webinars and interviews and everything. And I invested, I'm at my house, but I invested in a home studio, got the gear, learned what I needed to learn. And I was like, you know what? From a business strategic standpoint, when COVID hit, I was like, there is the opportunity to really do this, to really dial in the webinars, to really figure out virtual work at a new level. And, not to take, that was what I was focusing on from a business standpoint. Mm-hmm. So I just leaned in, and then the opportunities just kind of poured in, and I just said, yes.
Dude.
And then it led to needing a videographer and needing a team and needing support to start making more content because it was helping more people. And that's what you guys are doing. And I think the whole virtual assistant army is sort of my next phase of how do I go to the next level of scale, because making content is, as we all here know, not without pain and not without effort and time and involvement. So yeah, everything's been a good ride, man.
I love that.
Awesome.
Man. Well, congrats, bro. I love seeing your growth, man.
I appreciate that. I'm honored to be a part of our conversation today. And I see like some awesome things we get to talk about together today. So it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, let's get right into it. What are the social platforms that you think we should jump in on as business owners?
To build your brand, basically. Yeah.
Well, I heard you guys talking to Mally about TikTok, and I will piggyback you on TikTok. I think that is certainly a place to be putting effort. Here's what I would encourage everyone to think about is the platforms are the platforms, but what's the content I have to feed to the platforms? It's kind of like, content is like, imagine having a heart without blood. Well, that's like having a platform without content. So what content does TikTok require? What do I have to change in how I'm making videos? Because obviously it's a vertical format video, multi-clip videos. Now they're going to 10-minute videos and stuff like that. So I would say do your research and figure out what are the different modalities of content that I need to be able to fill in with, and then say, does that make sense for how I do content? I think that's fair. But I would just say all things being equal, TikTok is certainly a spot I'd be looking at right now. continuing to lean in on Instagram, looking at Facebook through the lens of groups. How do I really facilitate groups and treat it from a group standpoint? Looking at messaging formats is important. We're seeing a rise in WhatsApp. We're seeing a rise in Messenger. We're seeing a rise in integrated messaging platforms. So what's your game plan around DMs? That's not really a platform, but it's a conversation I've been having with a lot of my clients. Like, look, end of day, when we talk about actually lead generating and manifesting the opportunities that come out of all the content, all the social, it all goes down in the DMs. So what's your strategy? Do you have, for instance, a VA who is hooked up through your creator studio on Facebook and Instagram, who can scan your DMs and who can specifically look for specific asks? I want to buy a house. I want to sell a house, actual inquiries that you don't want to miss. And that then engages an entire process. Have you figured out how to mine those opportunities? Other platforms, I'm huge on YouTube right now. Always have been. I want it. YouTube's just the platform I want. Reason I like it is because it's higher intent. Generally speaking, if you're going to crush it on YouTube, you're going to get a higher intent buyer or seller lead. A lot of our coaching clients, like Brad McCallum, he's in Calgary, Alberta, one of our coaching members, freaking kills it on YouTube, kills it. And all he does, not all he does, I don't want to diminish it. He makes amazing listing videos. He has a video series called $1 Million Tours. He tours the properties. They're gorgeous. He's an amazing host, and it generates crazy seller deals. And then there's another guy in Texas named Jeremy Knight, another amazing member of our ecosystem. He creates just basically talking head, give you the news, what's happening in real estate, all the things you need to know. And he's got so much relo coming to Texas where he lives. He's closing $100,000 in GCI per month off of YouTube alone, organic, not a dollar spent. So like I look at YouTube, I think it's got the difference with YouTube is it's kind of that mountaintop and it's hard to get to the top. Yeah. So don't go after YouTube unless you're really okay with it. With TikTok, you actually have an early starter advantage in the sense that TikTok's algorithm doesn't really pay as much attention to the size of your audience and how big your following is. In fact, it's not even a ranking signal. So every next video, it's everybody's on the same playing field, basically. So you have as much of a chance as somebody who has 1 million followers that your next video goes viral. It's just a matter of figuring out what types of videos perform based upon your style of content. And then last one I'll give you that I think you all should be looking at is Pinterest. I think Pinterest deserves a new set of eyes for a few reasons. One, Pinterest, yeah. Not that I'm the most from a straight up research standpoint. One, they're investing in a ton of new video formats. So I think there's an opportunity to get early mover advantage with video formats. Two, their advertising platform is really slick and it's got a great cost per result. So there's advertising. Three, I don't have the stat handy, but I read the other day that I think it's like 86% of millennials consult Pinterest for any purchase decision, whatever they're like, any purchase decision.
Wow.
And last time I checked, buying a house was a really, really big purchase decision. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, if you were blogging and creating pro grade, like tips and advice about buying and selling real estate, and then just posting that and linking back to your blog on Pinterest, you're going to be positioning yourself in front of an audience who's consulting Pinterest for all types of advice. So theoretically, it could work a lot like YouTube, where it's that research phase, buyer and seller, who are digging into all the stuff you're publishing and really grabbing hold. So I don't know if that's a long-winded answer. Does that make sense?
Dude, that totally makes sense. We've been playing on Pinterest for a few months now.
Yeah.
Throwing out short videos and we're seeing thousands of views, which is
it's not just recipes. And I don't want to like say you should do that at the expense of other platforms, but it's like my philosophy has always been make your content and then publish it and optimize it for all your channels. Treat them like that. That way you've got a content strategy. It's integrated across all your channels. And so adding a new channel, adding a new platform is not like going to sink the ship, so to speak, because you already have a content plan.
Really great point, man. I'm going to show really quick just so people understand what we're doing. We're just repurposing these short videos. See?
100%.
Boom. Done. Look, 4,500 monthly views off of repurposed videos. That's insane. It is
insane. And the other deal about Pinterest is, so like I've been a proponent for a long time now of you should take all your content and repurpose everything you post basically as a blog on your website, because I'm gaining crazy SEO through doing that. Like, for example, I have a reel that's embedded, it's inline in a blog. This is just one example. I have several. I have more than one. But I have this one that came to mind. I was looking at my Google Search Console report the other day, and I realized this blog is getting 3,000 to 3,500 clicks in Google search results per month. Damn. And it was a video I made as a reel over a year ago that ran through the feeds in like 1 or 2 days. And then poof, it was nothing. except that it lives on in the afterlife of my blog. Well, combine that with, well, guess what? Pinterest has better SEO than your blog. So why wouldn't you also put the content on Pinterest and let it drive people back to your blog? Let it be the pass-through.
Dude, really good point, man. Really, really good point on that. And now tell me about storytelling, because a lot of what we do as real estate agents involves stories, helping people out, buying, selling processes, but we don't use it in social. How can we start using this part of the storytelling to bring in people?
Okay, so I've got a couple of thoughts, and they're arguably contradictory thoughts. So cool. let's start with it. First one is, to me, I would also go through like a story. You can go, like, I'm a big fan of Donald Miller's work and building a story brand work, and just going through this the story brand framework. I think it's a good framework to go through with your business. I think sometimes the idea of storytelling becomes this mountain that you have to climb. And so it almost becomes a barrier to getting started content-wise, because I think a lot of agents are like, well, how do I tell a good story? And I'm like, slow down. You don't have to go that far necessarily. I would give you what I call 3 Ps. And I actually teach these through the lens of building out your value prop or building out your unique selling proposition, but you could use it from a story standpoint too. What's the problem? So it's problem, and then it's proposition, and then it's payoff, just to kind of give you the cliff notes. Problem, proposition, payoff, the 3 phases you go through. I like the line, what's the problem your customer has they don't want, and or what's the result they want but they don't have? It's like X marks the spot. It's the same difference. So whether you're motivated by pain or loss, whichever one it is, results focused or problem solution focused, either way, it's the same thing. But defining, like, what is it my buyers and sellers are struggling with? So what's that? What's the proposition? How do I like mitigate that or solve that? Or what information can I add to the mix to make things better or easier? And then last is, what's the payoff? In other words, what's the result of that? What's the benefit? What's the conclusion? Just a basic story arc. But I'll tell you what, here's my contradictory thought. Sometimes I think storytelling is really important. In my own little world, I think we've used that word and we've put it on too high of a shelf, and we've made it this bigger subject than it really needs to be. It should just be innate in what we do. We're just people, we tell stories. It should just be that. And I think we've made it grandiose. So I've been asking the question a lot when I'm speaking and to my coaching clients and so forth, like, hey, what do you sell? And it's a silly loaded question. And people typically say, like, I sell houses, I sell myself, I sell blah, blah, blah. And it's obviously it's a leading question. But the answer is that I've been pushing is, end of day, people hire you for your expertise and the way in which you convey that expertise. So maybe you're funny. Maybe you are like a Glenda Baker and you can just spin yarn and you're good at it and you bring people into that. But I think you have to say, like, okay, end of day, what is the job I'm being hired to perform? And how do I talk about that in a way that's constructive to people online who are following me? How do I just add value in that capacity? I know I'm sort of ditching your question a little bit, but whether it's through story or through just understanding the job I've been hired for and the thing I'm trying to move, the needle I'm trying to move, I think that's what gets it done. I don't know. Give me some reactions on that. I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for or not.
No, I like that, man. I like what you're saying. I think we sometimes overthink it, so then we miss everything else, right? Like, one of the most stupid things I do is I use the filters, and then the filters get hundreds of thousands of views. And I'm like, but that wasn't storytelling on its own, but it kind of was. It's just showing you who I am, right? Yeah, so,
exactly. So I think, if storytelling is a framework that helps you, that inspires action, use it. If it's a framework that is daunting to you, adjust the word and find a way just to kind of go out there and create content that adds value. Whatever framework allows you to be more productive in terms of making content, if that makes sense.
Yeah, great point, man. Matt Vandy has a question. What website or place did you say you were reviewing your Google stats on?
I missed the beginning of the question. Can you repeat it?
What website or place were you saying you were reviewing your Google stats on?
Yeah, so I have Google Analytics hooked up on my website, which a lot of us are probably familiar with. Basically, it's like a Facebook pixel. They give you a little tag. Just go to analytics.google.com and you have your website person put in the back end of your website. And what it does is it tells you how many people on your website, what pages do they go to, how long were they there on average, and that kind of stuff. It's just metrics and stats about how your website's performing. They have another product called Google Search Console, which is what Mandy's asking about. Google Search Console is a little bit different. So just type in Google Search Console, and you'll find the link to it. Whereas Google Analytics tells you what's happening on your website, Google Search Console tells you what happened on Google to get them to your website. So I can figure out what are the queries that people are typing in Google that I rank on the most. Number one is my name. That's obviously going to be the first one. They're going to type in Jason Pantana and go to my website. But what I really love is, as I'm publishing all these blogs all the time, I rank on how does TikTok define a view? I rank on running Instagram Reels ads. I rank on all kinds of just random little odds and ends of all things marketing because I'm blogging on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so I can see what's performing.
Dude, I love that. I love that a lot. Great answer. Let's see if we have a couple of questions on Pinterest.
Okay, you're right. Good luck for me. Here we go. We can do this.
You brought it up, bro.
Well, I did at a high level.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So on a high level, can you explain what you would suggest someone do when it comes to Pinterest?
Yeah. I mean, why don't we tag team this one? I would simply say, let's repurpose your content. Like literally what you're doing is let's repurpose your content and we'll link it back because I believe that every piece of content, whether it's started on an Instagram or whatever the starting point was, I'm going to put it everywhere. I'm going to optimize it natively for every single platform. Natively means I'm not going to share a YouTube link on Facebook. I'm going to upload the video to Facebook because they want the actual goods. They want the content. But I'm going to publish my content anywhere and everywhere it makes sense, including my blog. And because I realized that Pinterest, like for me, Pinterest and Twitter are strategically a lot about just link driving. I understand there's a community there too. I'm not trying to like remove that thought, but they both have really great SEO. And so I personally look at both platforms as a great space to try to drive some traffic to my website. And so I'm just going to post my blogs. If I have a video, I'll upload the video. If it's a photo, and it links to the blog. Tristan, you want to add any additional?
You're right. I think we overthink it when it comes to anything social media, right? And this is where I say, look, just pick one that you're amazing at. And for now, as you're starting off, throw out stuff everywhere else that you're already using in your main channel. So Brad's a good friend, right? Brad McCallum does YouTube, but then guess what he does everywhere else? He dices it up and puts it everywhere else.
Slice, dice, and chops it up. That's right. And as far like I'm not asking people to necessarily go make boards on Pinterest and that kind of stuff. I'm just saying like, take advantage of the video features in whatever capacity you feel ready to do. And most importantly, just repurpose your content and drive back to your blog for each of the pieces of content. That's it.
Pretty easy, man. I love that. All right. So what are some of the free tools? Because we were talking about tools. I want to know what you typically suggest for people to use when it comes to making social media easier. So
and I'm a big fan of free tools because I don't pay for third-party publishing, anything. If I'm going to pay for tools, I'm going to pay for a VA, honestly. Like I truly, and I'm not just saying that, that's what I'm going to do. And the reason for social media tools is because there's no third-party publishing tool like Hootsuite, Later, or any of them that publish everywhere. And so invariably, I can maybe reduce the load with one of those, but I'm still going to end up needing someone to help me publish all my content someplace else or something. Because to me, that's where I know you were saying you publish a lot of it yourself. But I'm like, build a checklist of where your content goes and when it goes and train somebody on how to do that and help streamline it. You can pick your favorites. Like I'm also in Instagram. I understand Instagram Reels has to be done from a phone and things like that. But I would say when it comes to money, I'd rather employ people. As far as tools, I already mentioned Google Analytics. I mentioned Google Search Console. I would say become a major student of YouTube Studio. It's just studio.youtube.com. It's got great analytics about your channel and all that kind of stuff. As far as a cheap tool, I'm a TubeBuddy fan. You can sign up tubebuddy.com/Jason Pantana. They have a great affiliation program. I'll give them that. But it's like a few dollars a month, and it can give you some basic understanding of what are people searching for on YouTube, so I can optimize my titles to pick up on some of those search patterns and find people who are like buying in blank or selling in blank. But again, YouTube Studio is free and it's spectacular as far as the platform goes. I'm a big fan of Facebook's Creator Studio. So Facebook Creator Studio allows me, in fact, I just did it a second ago before we got on. I just published a post from Facebook and Instagram on my computer simultaneously, added alt text and hashtags and everything through their Creator Studio. It allows you to have access to both your Facebook and your Instagram at the same time and then control where content goes. Most of it, not Reels, for instance, but most of it. And then inside of, there's this thing called your Meta Business Studio. So it used to be Facebook Business Studio. It's now called the Meta Business Studio, or excuse me, Business Suite. Wrong word. And inside of it, there's a ton of tools, but the one I like the most is their unified inbox. So I don't know if you know this, but they have the ability to unify your Facebook page and your Instagram account or accounts all into a singular inbox where I can see all messages, all comments, and or I can separate them out between all my channels. And I can invite my VA in and give them an assigned privilege so they have limited access to certain things and not other things. It's permission based, and they can respond on my behalf. They can flag things. They can add notes to people. It's basically a full-blown inbox with inbox features for managing DMs. This goes back to what we said earlier on. Like, you got to figure out how to mine the opportunities out of the DMs, and you should be using the unified inbox to do that, because I have a VA going through and doing that stuff. And they go through and they flag all the opportunities. They've got specific protocol on send this email, send this message, do this, log this here in the CRM based upon everything coming through my DMs. And they can add notes, they can flag things, they can star things, they can assign things. That's a stellar tool in my opinion.
I love that, dude. Question in regards to tools, but more on the tech side. What's your camera right now?
I'm using a Sony A6400.
Nice.
And it's running, I invested. So I have a Sony A6400 mirrorless camera with just a kit lens. It's running, I've got the little iPad teleprompter situation so I can look at you guys while I'm looking at the camera. I've got some lights, got a microphone up here, and I'm running it through an A10 mini ISO switching. So I can switch between, like, if I do a lot of screen share and stuff. And then that is going through a HDMI converter encoder to get to my computer. So short answer was, sorry, I gave you more than you asked for. A Sony A6400 is the answer with the kit lens.
Yeah, and you also need the converter too. So
yeah, I'm using the Camlink 4K converter. That's the encoder I'm using.
Yeah.
I actually don't need it because I'm using this little A10 Mini Pro ISO switcher.
Oh, dude.
But I've got it routing so many places. I'm still using the Camlink because I'm using the ports that I would otherwise use for other stuff.
There you go. Whoever asked that question, that was probably too much info for you.
Too much info. I'm a gear nerd. I like the gear.
I love that, dude. All right. A couple of other questions for you in regards to tools. Yeah, you're welcome, Maggie. What are some things that you're looking for when you're hiring a social media manager? Do they have to understand the tools that you're using, or do you train them?
You know, I can get a little pedantic on this sometimes. And so normally I would say, I think it's really important that they do. But I would also step back. I was reading an article, one of my clients emailed me one of Seth Godin's recent blogs. And he talked about soft skills versus technical skills and hiring for attitude as being more important than hiring for skills. And Seth Godin is never wrong. I read the article and it was very brilliantly put. Yeah. And I was like, what are the soft skills that I really value? Well, I value a person who takes initiative. I value a person who's more motivated by figuring out the next thing versus being afraid of being wrong. I value a person who's punctual. I value a person who's hungry. Like going through, like, what are the personal characteristics of the person you believe can help you? What are those soft skills? I would say start there. And then as far as the technical skills are concerned, my question to you is, what is your expectation of this person? And I've used this analogy a lot with clients when I'm coaching them. Like, go to a typical corporate hierarchy. It typically goes like C-suite, your executive leadership, like VPs and directors, and then managers, and then down to the actual worker roles. What level are you hiring at? Because strategy comes from the top down. And so if you're willing to pay a director or above salary, which is going to cost you a good 6 figures, then by all means, expect a lot of technical skills, by all means. But if you're looking to hire somebody who's more of an entry-level coordinator, specialist type of level in terms of corporate hierarchy speak, it's going to be incumbent upon you to figure out what are the things I want them to do. You are the one who's going to orchestrate the strategy, and therefore they need to be trainable. But if they're trainable, that's really all that it takes, right? Because they're going to be following your blueprint.
That's very true. And I think that's where a lot of people fail. They don't outline what that blueprint looks like.
I agree. So that being the case, I think your third option is, if there's a person who is a lower level cost based upon your budget, but also has some menu of skills, it's always a plus. It's always a plus. If they're Google Analytics certified, if they know how to run ads in Facebook Ads Manager, if they understand like YouTube SEO and some more like things like that, that's going to be a good sign that they have a mind for digital marketing, which I would appreciate.
All right, last question for you. How are you using, or would you use, your VAs for when it comes to social media?
Sure. I've seen them used for tons of stuff. One of the ways I'm not using but should be using is for chops, repurposing content. Go grab 30 seconds, go grab 60 seconds, take this 10-minute podcast and give me 20 pieces of content for it. That's definitely one way I should be using them. I've thought about having a dedicated VA whose only job is the technical side of digital. So they're going to be responsible for my email communications and for running ads. Because that's more like I typically will talk like there's like the engineer side of the brain and the creative side of the brain. Mm-hmm. If I can find somebody who's like technically got a lot of prowess in that capacity, I want to use them. But the easiest way that I think about using a VA is dial in your content mix. What are you going to make? What's your content? What's the story you're telling? What are the videos? What's the post? All that stuff. Where do you want it to go? And then have a VA help you distribute that content. Take it all over. Like distribution is the easiest way to get help. There is no third-party software that's going to distribute for you everywhere. At the end of the day, you can chase whatever pot of gold you want. You're going to come up short. You can hire these canned content providers that are going to give you canned emails that nobody reads, canned posts that everybody else is posting, and it's not like Mally said it a second ago. Like they're going to realize there's no authenticity. It's you. They're looking for you. So I would say your highest and best use is making the content. And sure, you might bring in videographers and graphic designers and professional skills around you to facilitate that, but you're the source, the wellspring of content. Use a VA to put that content everywhere according to the checklist you provide. That's my thought.
100%. 100%.
I love it. All right, where do people follow you, buddy? How do
I'd love to connect with you on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok, on all over the place. Here's some links on the screen there. My email is Facebook, whatever, just Jason Pantana across the board. Shoot me a DM, shoot me a note. Let me know how I can help you. And I want to know what you're working on, and I want to know what I can do to kind of plug in and add value. So that's where we can connect.
I love it, dude. Thank you so much.
I use my little switcher. Did you see that?
I saw that. Do you have
awesome, dude?
Which one do you have? Do you have the Stream Deck by Elgato, or what do you have?
I have that too. And I have that over here.
Okay.
And then I've got this guy over here for actual switching.
Oh, damn, bro.
And then I got the Rodecaster Pro over here. Like it's a whole situation. My wife calls this my garage because the whole situation.
You one-upped me, bro.
Yeah.
They're very good. I love that.
I've got more to go. My next plan is I'm doing a rack mounting of my lighting so I can move the lighting around on carts more easily.
Dude, it's like a mobile freaking.
It's an addiction. It's really an addiction is what it is.
Anyway. Trisha says you look like a DJ, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
See, I even have the laughs.
That's the best. You're going to do well on TikTok, dude. You're going to do well on TikTok.
I'm working on it. All right, guys. I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you all. Have a good one, everybody. Be well.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one.